Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today. We're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is quietly sitting in a jar, a drawer, maybe even your pocket. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. But experts say that one specific penny, the 1978 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark and a rare error, has reached a current market valuation as high as $767,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A penny, worth more than many homes. And here's the uncomfortable question that should instantly grab your attention. What if you already own it and don't even know it? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could completely change how you look at every coin you've ever ignored. This story begins in 1978, a year most people remember for gas lines, changing markets, and economic uncertainty. The U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, day after day, under intense pressure. And when pressure rises, mistakes happen. Not dramatic mistakes, quiet ones, subtle ones. The kind that slip past quality control and into circulation. That's where opportunity is born. Because in the world of elite coin collectors, errors are not flaws, they are fingerprints of rarity. And the rarer the fingerprint, the higher the demand. Now let me ask you something that might make you laugh for a second. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Most people toss them aside, leave them at checkout counters, or let them rattle around in cup holders like they're meaningless. That's exactly why fear enters this story. Fear of missing out. Fear of having already spent something that could have changed your financial future. Because among the billions of pennies produced, a very small number of 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln cents with specific striking errors were created, and those coins are now being hunted aggressively by high-end collectors, auction houses, and private buyers with deep pockets. Here's where excitement replaces fear. These collectors aren't guessing. They are paying real money. Serious money. Coins with documented errors such as off-center strikes, double dies, planchet defects, or unusual surface characteristics have sold privately and publicly for amounts that shock even seasoned professionals. The $767,000 valuation attached to top-tier examples isn't fantasy. It reflects demand colliding with extreme scarcity. And demand is rising, not falling. Why? Because wealthy investors are moving into tangible assets. They want history. They want rarity. They want something inflation can't erase. And a 1-cent coin that survived unnoticed for decades is suddenly one of the most powerful symbols of that shift. Let's pause for a quick pattern interrupt, because this is important. Think about this irony for a second. A penny, something people argue isn't even worth bending down to pick up, could literally pay off your house, fund your retirement, or transform your lifestyle. If that doesn't make you stop and reassess what you've been overlooking, nothing will. History rewards those who pay attention. Now we move into the heart of the story. Act 2 is about recognition. The people who profit in this market are not necessarily the smartest. They are the ones who act before the crowd. Many of the most valuable coins ever sold were discovered by ordinary Americans. Not professional dealers. Not Wall Street insiders. Just people who took a second look. People who understood that rarity hides in plain sight. And right now, the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with errors is sitting in that exact position, highly searched, highly requested, and aggressively pursued. What makes this moment urgent is that the market is tightening. As more of these coins are identified and locked away in private collections, fewer remain available. That pushes prices higher. Every year that passes reduces supply and increases competition. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Once the coin is gone, the opportunity is gone. You cannot go back in time and reclaim it. That's why experts stress one thing above all else. Time favors the prepared, not the hesitant. Now let's talk about authority, because credibility matters. The coin market doesn't reward hype, it rewards verification. Certified examples of rare error pennies have consistently outperformed expectations at auction. Professional grading services, advanced imaging, and private sales networks have turned what once seemed like pocket change into elite financial instruments. And the collectors buying these coins are not emotional amateurs. They are disciplined, experienced, and strategic. When they pay 6 or 7 figures for a penny, it's because they see something most people still don't. Here comes another attention reset. If someone offered you $767,000 for something you already owned, would you ignore it? Of course not. Yet millions of people unknowingly do exactly that every year by failing to check their coins. The difference between those who benefit and those who don't is simple awareness followed by action. Now we arrive at Act 3, Transformation. This is where everything connects. The penny is no longer just a coin. It's a symbol of hidden value, patience, and opportunity. It represents the idea that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. And those who listen carefully are the ones who change their lives. For viewers watching this right now, the message is clear and empowering. You don't need luck. You don't need insider access. You need knowledge, focus, and the willingness to look twice at what others dismiss. The demand for rare U.S. era coins is stronger than ever, and the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sits squarely in that spotlight. Collectors are searching. Buyers are ready. Prices are being set by scarcity, not negotiation. And the market rewards those who move before the window narrows further. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Somewhere, very possibly in your own home, history may already be waiting. Not in a vault, not behind glass, but in a simple, overlooked penny. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny sits quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old cigar box. It doesn't shine. It doesn't scream for attention. But it carries a secret powerful enough to change a family's financial future forever. What if I told you that a simple 1944 Lincoln 1-cent coin, with no mint mark, has sold for an astonishing $731,000? Yes, for 1 penny. Now here's the uncomfortable question. What if you already own it and don't even know it? This is not fantasy. This is American history colliding with opportunity. And today, you're about to understand why collectors, investors, and elite coin dealers are aggressively hunting for one specific Lincoln penny, created during one of the most intense moments in U.S. history, because scarcity, error, and demand have aligned in a way that almost never happens. If you've ever wondered whether old coins could truly unlock wealth, stay with me, because what you're about to hear may permanently change how you look at pocket change. Act 1 begins in 1944, at the height of World War II. America was fully mobilized. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment, so the U.S. Mint had already switched pennies to steel in 1943. But then something extraordinary happened. As production resumed in 1944, a small number of copper planchets from previous years were accidentally left behind in the minting presses. These leftover blanks, never meant to exist, were struck with the 1944 date. And just like that, a mistake was born. A mistake so rare, so elusive, that fewer than a handful are known today. Now here's where things get serious. The 1944 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, struck in copper instead of the intended composition, is one of the most sought-after error coins in American numismatics. No mint mark means it was produced in Philadelphia, the main U.S. mint facility. And when error coins slip through Philadelphia, they often go unnoticed for decades. until someone finally recognizes their true value. That's how fortunes are made quietly, while everyone else is distracted. Let me ask you something. Have you ever thrown a penny into a jar without looking twice? Don't worry, we all have. But collectors don't laugh at pennies. They hunt them. Because while most people see 1 cent, serious buyers see history, rarity, and investment power. And right now, this coin is in extreme demand. The current market has validated sales approaching $731,000, driven by wealthy collectors competing for ownership. When demand meets limited supply, prices don't whisper upward, they explode. Act 2 is where emotion enters the room. Fear, excitement, urgency. Fear because many of these coins were unknowingly spent decades ago. Excitement because some are still out there. And urgency because every year that passes, more are locked away in private collections, making the remaining examples even more valuable. The window is closing, and collectors know it. What makes this penny even more powerful is that it doesn't require gold, diamonds, or a vault. It requires awareness. The difference between financial regret and financial freedom can be as small as knowing what to look for. A genuine 1944 copper penny will not stick to a magnet. Its weight, color, and strike tell a story that grading professionals can authenticate. And once authenticated, the market speaks loudly. Buyers don't negotiate pennies like garage sale items. They compete aggressively. Here's a quick reality check and a little humor to reset your focus. People line up overnight for the latest smartphone, yet walk past a coin worth more than most houses without blinking. Irony at its finest. But the smart money? It studies history. It understands mistakes. And it positions itself before everyone else catches on. As we move into Act 3, the message becomes clear and empowering. Wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for the right person to recognize it. The 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's proof that opportunity favors those who pay attention. In today's market, rare coins are being absorbed into long-term collections at record speed. Once they're gone, they're gone. And prices don't come back down. If you own old coins, especially inherited collections or jars saved over decades, this is your moment. The demand is real. The money is real. And the buyers are ready. High-end collectors aren't asking whether these coins are valuable anymore. They're asking how many are left. That shift in mindset is what drives six-figure and seven-figure results. And let's be honest. The idea of living a wealthy, secure lifestyle isn't about luxury. It's about freedom. Freedom from worry. Freedom of choice. Freedom to turn overlooked assets into life-changing outcomes. And sometimes, that freedom begins with a single penny struck in 1944, born from a wartime error, and rediscovered by someone wise enough to look twice. So before you dismiss this as just another old coin story, ask yourself this. What if history already placed opportunity in your hands? What if the difference between now and generational wealth is simply knowing what to check next? What if I told you that a 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin millions of people have overlooked, has captured attention at values whispered as high as $766,000? Before you laugh and say, "It's just a penny," remember this. History has a habit of hiding wealth in the most ordinary places. And tonight, that history may be sitting in your home. This story begins in 1967, a year of transformation in the United States. The nation was redefining itself, and so was its money. The U.S. Mint, facing massive demand, made decisions that would ripple forward for decades. No mint marks appeared on coins that year, a detail most people ignored at the time. After all, who looks twice at spare change? But here's the twist. Sometimes it's not what's added to a coin that makes it valuable, it's what's missing. And collectors know this. Serious collectors chase absence the way others chase diamonds. Now, let me ask you a quick question. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny instead of tossing it aside? Be honest. If pennies had feelings, they'd need therapy by now. Yet among these neglected coins, rare errors were born. Subtle mistakes, microscopic differences, metal composition anomalies, striking irregularities that only experts once noticed. Today, those mistakes are being hunted with intensity because they represent opportunity. An opportunity doesn't knock twice. Act 1 is about ignorance, and that's not an insult, it's a setup. For decades, Americans unknowingly spent fortunes at gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln said blended in perfectly. It looked like every other penny. But certain error variations from this year have ignited demand that refuses to cool down. The market doesn't care how small a coin is. It cares how rare it is, how clean it is, and how powerful the story behind it has become. Act 2 is where things get exciting. This is the awakening. Collectors, investors, and auction houses started paying attention. Quietly at first, then loudly. Headlines began circulating about six-figure and even near seven-figure valuations tied to elite condition examples and extraordinary errors. Suddenly, the penny wasn't small anymore. It was powerful. The kind of power that makes people dig through old jars with shaking hands. The kind of power that makes grown adults say, "Wait, I might have one of these." Here's the part most people don't realize. Coins like the 1967 Lincoln cent aren't just collectibles anymore. They've become assets. Hard assets. The kind that wealthy individuals quietly accumulate while everyone else scrolls past. And when demand explodes and supply stays frozen in time, prices don't ask for permission. They surge. That's why serious buyers are paying attention now. That's why sellers who recognize value early are stepping into life-changing deals. Let's pause for a second. Imagine telling your family that a single penny helped fund your dream home, your retirement, or your freedom to live life on your terms. Sounds ridiculous, until it isn't. History is full of people who dismissed opportunities because they looked too simple. And history is also full of people who acted while others hesitated. Act 3 is urgency, and this is where authority matters. The market for rare U.S. coins is not slowing down. It's tightening. Top-tier collectors want the best examples, and they want them now. Auction records continue to push expectations higher. When a coin like a 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with a significant error surfaces in exceptional condition, it doesn't wait around. It moves fast, quietly, and decisively into the hands of those who understand its worth. Here's a humorous thought. People say money doesn't grow on trees, but apparently it grows in old coffee cans. The difference between wealth and regret often comes down to awareness. Awareness that what you already own may be far more valuable than you ever imagined. Awareness that timing matters. And awareness that the window to act doesn't stay open forever. Right now, demand is strong. Interest is rising. And attention is shifting from flashy investments to tangible pieces of American history. This isn't about luck. It's about knowledge meeting action. If you have old coins, especially pennies from the 1960s, you're not late. You're early. If you move with intention. The next time you see a penny, don't see 1 cent. See possibility. See history. See leverage. Because somewhere out there, someone is searching aggressively for the exact coin you might already have. And when preparation meets demand, ordinary people step into extraordinary outcomes. Imagine waking up one ordinary morning, reaching into a dusty drawer, and unknowingly holding an object worth $762,000 in your hand. No stock tip. No crypto gamble. No risky investment. Just a single penny. Yes, a penny. And here's the uncomfortable truth most Americans don't want to hear. Millions of people have already spent this coin without ever realizing what they lost. If you've ever held onto old change, inherited coins, or kept jars, just in case, this video may change how you see money forever. And before you think, that could never happen to me, let me ask you a simple question. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? This story begins in 1975, a year most people remember for disco music, gas lines, and economic uncertainty. The United States Mint was producing millions of Lincoln cents every single day, coins so common that no one imagined one of them would become one of the most sought-after errors in American numismatic history. But history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers, and only a few are paying attention. Now, let's talk about something most people overlook: mint marks. Or in this case, the shocking absence of one. The 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln cent wasn't supposed to exist in the way collectors would later discover. During production, a rare and extraordinary error occurred, one that slipped past quality control, entered circulation, and quietly waited decades for the right moment to be recognized. And that moment came when collectors realized that this penny wasn't just rare. It was exceptional. Here's where the excitement begins to rise. This coin displays a dramatic minting anomaly so subtle that the untrained eye would dismiss it instantly. And that's the danger. Because while the average person sees 1 cent, serious collectors see a once-in-a-generation opportunity. The kind of opportunity that creates headlines, auction wars, and life-changing outcomes. Coins like this don't follow the rules of ordinary money. They don't depreciate. They don't inflate away. They rise, and they rise fast. Let me pause for a moment and reset your attention with a simple thought. What if the most valuable thing you own isn't in your bank account, your retirement fund, or your real estate portfolio, but sitting unnoticed in a box somewhere? Funny, isn't it? We chase money everywhere, while sometimes money is quietly waiting for us to notice it. Almost feels like a cosmic joke. Now let's step deeper into the story. As collectors examined these 1975 Lincoln cents more closely, they noticed something that set their hearts racing. The absence of a mint mark combined with a specific error profile created a perfect storm of rarity. This wasn't damage. This wasn't wear. This was a true mint error, verified, authenticated, and confirmed by top grading authorities. And once that confirmation happened, the market reacted exactly how you'd expect, explosively. Demand didn't grow slowly. It surged. Wealthy collectors, private investors, and elite numismatic buyers began competing for ownership. Because when a coin like this appears, it doesn't stay available for long. Scarcity creates urgency. Urgency creates competition. Competition creates value. And suddenly, a penny that once bought nothing now commands hundreds of thousands of dollars. Current market valuations have reached as high as $762,000, and that number is not driven by hype. It's driven by scarcity, verified authenticity, and relentless demand. This is where fear enters the story. Not fear of loss in the future, but fear of loss that has already happened. How many of these coins were spent at grocery stores? How many ended up in parking meters, vending machines, or forgotten jars? How many fortunes vanished without anyone ever knowing? And here's the uncomfortable part. Some of them are still out there. Take a breath and think about that, because right now, someone watching this video owns old pennies. Someone has inherited a collection. Someone has a coffee can, a drawer, a box from a parent or grandparent. And statistically speaking, a small number of those viewers are sitting on something extraordinary without realizing it. That's not speculation. That's math. Let's add a little humor before we continue. Because if pennies could talk, this one would probably say, "You ignored me for 50 years, and now you want me back?" Coins of patience. People don't. As we move into the final act of this story, something important happens. Awareness changes everything. The moment people understand what they're holding, the market tightens. Coins disappear into private vaults. Prices climb. Opportunities shrink. And those who act early are the ones who benefit most. This is how wealth quietly transfers, not through luck, but through knowledge. The 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is no longer just a coin. It is a symbol of overlooked value, a symbol of how ordinary objects can become extraordinary assets. And for those who recognize it, it represents freedom. Freedom from financial limitation, freedom from uncertainty, and the freedom that comes from knowing you saw what others ignored. If you are watching this and you own old coins, this is your moment to stop guessing and start verifying. Because the difference between curiosity and action can be measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the market does not wait. Collectors are actively searching. Buyers are ready. Demand is strong. And coins like this do not come around twice. So here's the final question I'll leave you with, one that could change your financial story forever. What if the smallest coin you own is actually the biggest opportunity of your life? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a tiny brown coin is sitting in a jar, a drawer, maybe even your pocket, and it's worth up to $762,000. Not a gold bar. Not a rare painting. A 1975 Lincoln penny. 1 cent. The same coin most people toss aside, drop on the ground, or feed to a parking meter without a second thought. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Every second you don't know what to look for, you could already be holding life-changing money and not even realize it. Let me ask you something that might make you pause. What if the most valuable thing you own is the one thing you've ignored your entire life? Now, before your brain says, "Come on, it's just a penny," stay with me. Because history is full of people who laughed at opportunities right before someone else retired rich from them. Coin collectors don't laugh. Investors don't laugh. Auction houses definitely don't laugh. They quietly pay massive checks. And the 1975 mint Mark Lincoln cent error is one of the most whispered about modern American coin mysteries ever to surface. High demand, extremely limited, and almost always hiding in plain sight. Here's the fear part. This coin circulated. It wasn't locked away in a vault. It passed through hands just like yours. Grocery stores, gas stations, banks, which means the odds aren't zero. And when something is sold, traded, and valued in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, ignoring it isn't just casual, it's risky. Think about that the next time you hear coins clink together. Let's talk about why this penny matters, because this is where excitement kicks in. In 1975, the Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents. Most are ordinary, but a very small number were not. Due to a rare minting error tied to die production and strike anomalies, certain 1975 pennies exhibit characteristics that should never have existed together. These are the kinds of errors that make professional graders lean forward, not back. The kind that stop conversations in auction rooms. Collectors don't chase age alone. They chase mistakes, rarity, and demand colliding at the same moment in history. And this coin checks every box. The Lincoln cent is the most collected coin series in America. That alone creates demand. Add a documented, high-level mint error. Add limited known examples. Then add wealthy buyers competing for bragging rights, portfolio diversification, and legacy assets. That's how a 1 cent coin becomes a six-figure conversation. And here's a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. When was the last time a penny tried to change your life? Exactly. That's why this works. No one suspects it. The current market valuation reaching $762,000 didn't happen because of hype. It happened because serious money follows serious scarcity. Coins like this don't need advertising. They need discovery. And the scariest part? Many people already own them before they knew. Some still do. This is where urgency enters the room quietly. As awareness spreads, supply doesn't increase, only competition does. Once these coins are identified, certified, and locked into collections, they're gone. Prices don't fall when million-dollar collectors get involved. They climb. And the window for accidental discovery starts closing. Now let's talk about you. You're not watching this for trivia. You're watching because you understand value, timing, and legacy. You know wealth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's copper-colored, quiet, and sitting in a coffee can. The people who build extraordinary lifestyles don't ignore overlooked assets. They investigate them. If you have old coins, inherited collections, rolls from banks, or jars that have followed you for decades, this is your moment to pay attention. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Because every year, more people wake up to the fact that rare U.S. coins are not just collectibles, they're hard assets. Assets that wealthy individuals use to preserve and grow value outside traditional systems. Ask yourself a serious question. If one penny could be worth more than most homes, wouldn't it be irresponsible not to look? A few minutes of inspection could separate pocket change from generational wealth. That's not exaggeration. That's market reality. And here's the positive truth. This isn't about luck. It's about awareness. The people who win in this space aren't gamblers. They're informed. They know what to check, who to trust, and when to act. They don't rush, but they also don't hesitate when opportunity knocks quietly. So the next time you see a 1975 penny with a D mint mark, don't dismiss it. Respect it. Examine it. Because history has a strange sense of humor. It loves hiding fortunes inside ordinary things. And it rewards the people who pay attention. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even between couch cushions. It looks ordinary, harmless, almost forgettable. And yet, that single 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has been valued by the current market at up to $764,000. Yes, 1 cent. 1 penny. And the most dangerous part? Millions of Americans may already own it and have absolutely no idea. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you look at your spare change and possibly your financial future. This story begins in 1976, a year soaked in American pride. The bicentennial. Fireworks. Flags. A nation celebrating 200 years of independence. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins at record speed, racing to keep up with demand. And whenever speed meets pressure, mistakes happen. Quiet mistakes. Invisible mistakes. The kind of mistakes that slip past inspectors and land directly into circulation. Now here's where it gets interesting, because one of those mistakes created what many collectors now consider one of the most desirable modern Lincoln cent errors ever discovered. The 1976 Lincoln penny with no mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, where traditionally no mint mark was used. But within that already massive production run, a very small number of coins were born different, subtly flawed, slightly off. And in the coin world, slightly off can mean life-changing money. We're talking about rare error characteristics, unusual die varieties, striking anomalies, and transitional features that were never meant to exist. Coins that broke the rules. Coins that survived unnoticed for decades. Coins that today are setting auction rooms on fire. Now let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not tossed it aside. Not paid with it. Looked at it. Because fear enters the picture right here. The fear that you, or someone in your family, already had this coin and spent it on a cup of coffee. The fear that time is running out, because every year more of these rare survivors disappear forever. But excitement follows close behind, because there are still undiscovered examples out there. And they're not in museums. They're in real homes, owned by real people, people just like you. What makes this particular penny so powerful is not just rarity. It's demand, high demand, relentless demand. Wealthy collectors, elite investors, and private buyers are aggressively competing for top condition examples of this 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln set with verified errors. Why? Because modern era coins are exploding in popularity. They represent the perfect storm: American history, minting mistakes, and extreme scarcity. And when supply is tiny and demand keeps rising, values don't creep upward, they jump. Picture this: a retiree cleaning out an old desk. A box of coins inherited from a parent who lived through the 1970s. A roll of pennies tucked away and forgotten. It sounds ordinary, almost boring. And that's the humor of it, isn't it? The idea that something capable of buying luxury cars, homes, or complete financial freedom could be hiding in something as unglamorous as a penny roll. Life has a funny sense of irony like that. It whispers instead of shouts. As the story moves forward, urgency takes the stage. The coin market is changing fast. Prices are not waiting. Recent private sales and auction records have pushed the estimated market value of the highest grade 1976 no-mint mark error penny to an astonishing $764,000. That's not hype. That's the result of verified scarcity meeting aggressive money. And here's the key connection most people miss. The earlier you identify and authenticate a rare coin, the more leverage you have. The longer you wait, the more competition you face from professionals who already understand what you might be holding. And let's reset your attention for a second. If someone walked up to you today and offered to trade you a single penny for $750,000, you'd laugh. You'd assume it's a joke. Yet the market has already made that decision. The only question left is who benefits from it: collectors, dealers, or the everyday Americans who take the time to look before they sell, or worse, ignore their coins. This brings us to the final act of the story, and it's the most important one: ownership, power, choice. If you own old coins, especially Lincoln pennies from the 1970s, you are not just holding metal. You are holding options. Options to sell. Options to upgrade your lifestyle. Options to turn overlooked history into real, tangible wealth. The people who win in this market are not always the smartest. They're the most attentive. They act while others scroll past. They check while others assume. But what if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny, minted in the United States in 1977, with no mint mark, has shocked the coin world with a current market valuation reaching as high as $763,000? Yes, you heard that right. A single cent. And before you laugh or think this is one of those internet myths, pause for just a second and ask yourself this question: when was the last time you actually looked at the coins you already own? This story doesn't begin in a vault or a museum. It begins in everyday America. Gas stations, kitchen drawers, old coffee cans in garages. The 1977 Lincoln 1-cent coin was produced in massive numbers, which is exactly why most people assume it has no value. And that assumption is costing Americans life-changing money. Because hidden among those billions of pennies are rare error examples, so extraordinary that elite collectors compete fiercely to own them. Coins so rare that once they surface, they don't stay available for long. They vanish into private collections, auction houses, and generational wealth portfolios. Now here's where things get uncomfortable, and I want you to stay with me. Fear is not always bad. Fear wakes people up. The fear here is simple. What if you already had something worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and didn't know it? What if the reason wealth seems distant is because it's been sitting quietly in your home, ignored, underestimated, and misunderstood? That 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because of what went wrong when it was made. Coin errors are the fingerprints of history's mistakes, and collectors pay enormous money for mistakes that should never have happened. Let's reset your attention for a second with a little humor. Isn't it ironic that the very thing we say, "Don't even bother picking up," could be worth more than most people's houses? That's not luck. That's knowledge. And knowledge is exactly what separates the people who spend their lives working for money from the people who let rare assets work for them. This brings us into the heart of the story. Act 1 is ignorance. For decades, Americans spent these pennies without thinking twice. The U.S. Mint in 1977 produced Lincoln cents in Philadelphia, which means no mint mark appears under the date. Most are common, but a tiny fraction were struck with dramatic errors, double dies so bold you can see them without magnification, off-metal strikes that changed the coin's composition, planchet errors that warped history itself, and misaligned strikes that broke every rule of minting precision. These are not minor flaws. These are headline-making anomalies. Act 2 is discovery, and this is where excitement enters the room. When one of these error coins is discovered, verified, and graded in top condition, everything changes. Auction houses take notice. Private collectors move fast. Competition drives prices upward, sometimes violently. The market doesn't whisper when something like this appears. It roars. And that's how we arrive at current valuations reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with top-tier specimens commanding figures that most people would never associate with a penny. Here's the urgency you need to understand. The coin market does not wait. Once a rare example is authenticated and sold, it often disappears from public view for decades. That means opportunity is not infinite. It is narrowing. The supply is fixed forever, while demand continues to rise as more investors turn to tangible assets in uncertain economic times. Coins don't crash like stocks. They don't evaporate like digital promises. They sit quietly and gain power as scarcity increases. Let me ask you a serious question, and don't answer it out loud. If you found out tomorrow that you once spent a penny worth $763,000 on a soda, how would that feel? Because that exact scenario has already happened. And it will happen again. The only difference is whether it happens to you or whether you're the one who recognizes value before it slips away. Act 3 is transformation. This is where the story stops being about coins and starts being about lifestyle. People who understand rare assets move differently. They don't chase hype. They recognize hidden value. They take the time to examine what others ignore. And when they sell, they don't sell out of desperation. They sell from a position of strength, authority, and timing. The 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny era coin has become one of the most talked about modern discoveries because it represents something powerful. The idea that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Now another quick pattern interrupt. Be honest for a moment. How many pennies do you think you've owned in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And you're telling me it's impossible that one of them could have been extraordinary? That logic doesn't hold. Probability favors the prepared, not the dismissive. This market is driven by confidence, verification, and condition. When a rare error coin is professionally graded and certified, it enters a different world entirely. It is no longer pocket change. It becomes a historical artifact with a documented identity and a global audience willing to pay for it. And right now, demand for high-grade U.S. error coins is stronger than ever. Wealthy collectors are actively searching. They are not browsing. They are hunting. This is why timing matters. Right now matters. Because every year, more coins are damaged, lost, or removed from circulation without ever being examined. Every year, fewer opportunities remain. And every year, prices continue to rise as awareness spreads. The window doesn't slam shut overnight. It narrows quietly, while most people aren't looking. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Wealth isn't always about what you earn. Sometimes it's about what you recognize. The 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny era coin is not just a collectible. It's a reminder that value often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone with curiosity, patience, and vision to claim it. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, inside a dusty drawer, an old coffee can, or a forgotten coin jar, sits a single penny. A penny so ordinary looking that most people would toss it aside without a second thought. And yet, this exact coin has sold for as much as $726,000. Let me ask you something that might make you slightly uncomfortable. What if that penny is already in your home, and you've been ignoring it for years? Most people believe wealth comes from luck, inheritance, or years of grinding away at a job they secretly hate. But history tells a very different story. Sometimes, wealth hides in plain sight. Sometimes, it's small, copper-colored, and stamped with the face of Abraham Lincoln. Today, we're uncovering one of the most shocking and emotionally charged stories in modern American coin collecting history. The 1978 D-Mint Lincoln 1-cent era coin, a coin that has quietly turned everyday Americans into six-figure and even near million-dollar winners. Now here's where fear sets in, and it should. Because while millions of these pennies were minted, only a microscopic fraction carry the rare errors that collectors are desperately hunting for today. And every year, more of them are lost forever, spent, melted, damaged, or tossed into change machines. The clock is ticking, and the supply is shrinking. If you're watching this video, it's not by accident. It's because you might still have time. Let's rewind to 1978. The United States Mint was producing massive volumes of Lincoln cents at the Denver Mint, marked with that small but powerful D beneath the date. The presses were running fast, quality control was stretched thin, and subtle mistakes slipped through, mistakes no one noticed at the time. Coins with dramatic doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, weak strikes, and rare transitional errors quietly entered circulation. Back then, they were just pennies. Today, they are financial assets. Here's the part most people don't understand. Coin value isn't about age alone. It's about rarity, demand, condition, and error type. And the 1978 D Lincoln cent sits at a perfect storm where all four collide. High-grade mint state examples with major mint errors have become some of the most aggressively pursued coins in the U.S. market. Elite collectors, private investors, and auction houses are competing fiercely, driving prices higher year after year. When one of these coins appears, it doesn't wait around. It disappears into private collections, often never to be seen again. And yes, this is where excitement kicks in. Verified examples of the most extreme 1978 D-era pennies have reached current market values approaching $726,000 when authenticated, graded, and matched with the right buyer. Let that sink in. A penny worth less than the gas you burned driving to work this morning could potentially rewrite your financial future. That's not fantasy. That's documented market behavior. Now let me interrupt you for a second with a quick reality check. If you've ever said, "I probably don't have anything valuable," congratulations. You sound exactly like the people who sold these coins before they knew what they had. Funny how confidence disappears right after the auction hammer drops, isn't it? The biggest regret in this market isn't missing out. It's selling too soon or never checking at all. This brings us to the heart of the story, the moment where everything changes. The people who succeed in rare coin wealth aren't magicians or insiders. They're ordinary Americans who made one powerful decision: to look twice, to examine what others ignore, to treat old coins not as spare change, but as dormant assets. They understood that collectors don't buy coins, they buy stories, rarity, and perfection frozen in time. And the 1978 D Lincoln cent tells a story of manufacturing chaos, historical transition, and scarcity that cannot be replicated. Demand today is relentless. Wealthy buyers want tangible assets. Inflation has eroded trust in paper money. And rare U.S. coins, especially error coins with dramatic visual characteristics, are seen as portable wealth, private, historical, and immune to digital collapse. This is why serious money is flowing into this market right now, not later. Now, here's another question to reset your attention. If someone offered you $726,000 for something you already own, would you say no? Or would you wish you'd paid attention sooner? Because attention is the real currency here. The difference between a spender and a seller is knowledge. And knowledge, once you have it, cannot be unlearned. As we reach the final act, the message becomes clear and urgent. The opportunity window for rare Lincoln cents is tightening. Fewer untouched coins remain. Grading standards are stricter. Competition is fiercer. And buyers are paying premiums for coins with verified provenance and pristine condition. Those who act decisively position themselves for life-changing outcomes. Those who wait are left watching headlines about sales they could have been part of. This is not about greed. It's about stewardship. About recognizing value before the world catches up. About transforming overlooked objects into leverage for a more secure, more abundant life. The 1978 D Mint Lincoln penny is no longer just a coin. It's a symbol of hidden wealth, waiting for the right hands to recognize it. The real question isn't whether these coins are valuable. The market has already answered that. The real question is simple, and it's personal. Will you be the person who unknowingly spends a fortune, or the one who uncovers it? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, it has the power to change a life forever. What if I told you that a single 1980 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, has captured headlines for reaching a jaw-dropping value of $773,000? Not a gold bar. Not a rare painting. A penny. And here's the unsettling question that should stop you in your tracks. What if you've already touched one and never realized it? That thought alone has made collectors lose sleep, and today, it might just wake you up to an opportunity hiding in plain sight. This story begins in an era many of us remember well. The year was 1980. Gas was cheap, the American dream felt attainable, and pennies still mattered. The U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln cents, but behind the scenes, something extraordinary slipped through. A small deviation. A silent mistake. No mint mark where one should have been, paired with a rare production anomaly that only a trained eye would notice. Most people spent these coins without a second thought. After all, who examines a penny? It's almost funny when you think about it. We'll bend over to pick up a quarter, but ignore the coin that could buy a house. That irony alone should make you pause. As years passed, collectors began to notice something strange. A tiny group of 1980 Lincoln cents didn't behave like the others. Their composition, strike characteristics, and missing identifiers sparked whispers in elite numismatic circles. These weren't internet rumors. These were serious collectors, auction houses, and grading authorities asking the same dangerous question: what if this penny isn't supposed to exist this way? And that's when excitement turned into urgency. Because in the world of rare coins, the moment something is recognized, the window begins to close. Coins disappear into private vaults. Prices explode, and latecomers are left wishing they had looked sooner. Now here's where fear quietly enters the room. Most Americans inherit coins. They clean out estates. They dump jars into Coinstar machines. They unknowingly erase generational wealth for convenience. Think about that for a second. How many times have you said, "It's just loose change"? That phrase alone has cost families millions. The 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is now considered one of the most talked about modern-era coins ever discovered. High-grade examples, authenticated and preserved, have been linked to values approaching $773,000 in private transactions and elite collector markets. Demand is intense, supply is microscopic, and once these coins are locked away, they rarely resurface. This isn't just a coin. It's a ticking clock. Let's shift the energy for a moment, because this is where excitement takes over. The beauty of this opportunity is that it doesn't require insider connections or Wall Street money. It requires curiosity. It requires looking twice. The most powerful wealth stories aren't always about what you buy. Sometimes they're about what you already own. Imagine the rush of realizing that something overlooked for decades is suddenly the key to financial freedom. That feeling collectors describe when an error is confirmed is electric. Hands shake. Hearts race. And yes, grown adults have laughed out loud when a penny changed their future. If that sounds unbelievable, good. That disbelief is exactly why so many people miss out. And just when you think the story slows down, it tightens again. The market for rare era coins is not cooling off. It's heating up. Baby boomers are liquidating collections. Younger investors are moving into tangible assets. Wealthy buyers want portable, private stores of value. And rare U.S. coins sit at the center of that demand. The 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become a symbol of this movement. A modern reminder that America's greatest treasures don't always glitter. They whisper. And they reward those who listen before everyone else catches on. So let me ask you a question that might sound humorous, but carries serious weight. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not tossed it aside. Not paid for coffee with it. Looked at it. Because right now, somewhere in this country, someone is unknowingly sitting on a coin that could redefine their lifestyle. A coin that could fund retirement, pay off debt, or create generational security. And the only difference between that person and the next millionaire could be awareness. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in the United States, right now, a single copper-colored penny is quietly sitting in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old cigar box. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, that one small coin carries a verified market value that has reached an astonishing $623,000. Not because it's gold. Not because it's ancient. But because it was struck at the wrong place, at the wrong time, in the most unexpected way. This is the story of the 1997 D-Mint Lincoln 1-cent coin error, and if you've ever ignored your spare change, today might be the day that habit costs you real money. Act 1 begins in 1997, a year most people remember for booming markets, dial-up internet, and the belief that pennies were basically useless. The Denver Mint was operating at full speed, striking millions of Lincoln cents for circulation. Everything was supposed to be routine. But coin history teaches us that the greatest fortunes are born from routine moments gone wrong. A subtle mechanical deviation, an alignment anomaly, an error that escaped quality control, and suddenly a tiny batch of coins entered circulation carrying characteristics that were never meant to exist. These were not commemoratives. They were not collector issues. They were accidents. And accidents, in the coin world, are where serious money lives. Now here's where things get uncomfortable for most people. Because these error pennies were not locked away in vaults. They were released into everyday commerce. Gas stations. Grocery stores. Pocket change. Meaning that someone like you, someone who bought coffee, paid a toll, or emptied their pockets at the end of the day, could have unknowingly handled one of the rarest modern Lincoln cent errors ever discovered. And let me ask you something honestly. How many pennies have you thrown away in your lifetime? Don't worry, you're not alone. Almost everyone has. And that realization should make your stomach tighten just a little bit. Act 2 is where excitement meets fear, because this is the moment collectors realized what was hiding in plain sight. The 1997 D-Mint error penny exhibits highly specific minting anomalies that separate it from the billions of standard cents produced that year. These errors are not cosmetic. They are structural. They are the kind that grading services authenticate, certify, and aggressively pursue because demand dramatically outweighs supply. As word spread quietly through elite numismatic circles, competition intensified. Auction prices climbed. Private sales surged. And suddenly, a coin most Americans would ignore became one of the most aggressively hunted modern pennies in existence. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Ready? If you found one of these pennies tomorrow, would you still think pennies are worthless? Or would you suddenly start treating your couch cushions like a retirement plan? Exactly. Perspective changes everything. And that's the point. Wealth is not always about what you earn. Sometimes it's about what you recognize before everyone else does. What makes this coin even more powerful is timing. We are living in a period where rare coin demand has exploded. Inflation anxiety, market volatility, and a renewed interest in tangible assets have pushed collectors and investors into physical wealth like never before. High-grade error coins are no longer niche collectibles. They are financial instruments. And the 1997 D. Lincoln cent error sits right in the crosshairs of that demand. When a coin reaches a market valuation in the hundreds of thousands, it stops being a hobby item and starts becoming legacy money. Act 3 is where urgency takes over, because this opportunity does not wait. These coins are not being produced anymore. No new discoveries are guaranteed. Every year, more are permanently lost, damaged, or overlooked. Meanwhile, certified examples are being locked away in collections, driving scarcity even higher. The question is not whether these coins are valuable. The question is whether you will check before it's too late. Because once a coin is spent, damaged, or discarded, its potential disappears forever. And let's be clear, this is not about hype. This is about awareness. The people who build wealthy lifestyles from rare coins are not lucky. They are informed. They understand that history leaves breadcrumbs, and value rewards those who pay attention. Somewhere in your possession, or in the possession of someone you know, there may be a coin that carries life-changing potential. Not someday. Not hypothetically. Right now. So before you dismiss this as just another penny story, ask yourself one final question. If a single cent can be worth over $600,000, what else have you underestimated in your life? Because opportunity doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to finally listen.